Sarah and John were ambitious young couple who had been married for 3 years. And because of their career, they decided to put a hold on having kids and starting a family. And they were, in a way, content with this arrangement. It so happened that John's sister, who had a young daughter of a 1.5-year-old and was expecting another child, met with a tragic accident along with her husband and died. This devastating loss affected John and Sarah, leaving them the responsibility of raising up Jean, his niece. Sarah and John were completely unprepared for parenthood, and yet they were over here. John immediately shifted his focus and attention on Jean, and in the process, Sarah felt ignored. This couple, who had planned everything and at once upon a time had a well-balanced relationship, all of a sudden took a turn for worse. So finally, Sarah and John decided to come together and have a talk. They realized that raising Jean as their own daughter required some changes. It requires some sacrifices. So they mutually decided that one of them would stay at home and the other would be the sole bread earner of the family. Since Jean was John's niece, he decided to stay at home while Sarah began to earn for the family. And looking at John, so dedicated for this new role, so passionate and so much in love with Jean, Sarah too had a change of heart, and once again, this couple was ready for this new role of parenthood. Now, I don't want to say that at the end, the couple lived happily ever after. That's not the reality. But let me say this. Sarah and John finally accepted their new role as a couple, as parent, and as a family. There is one thing that I want to emphasize in this story, and it is this. Marriage and parenthood is a vocation to become a new creation. Allow me to explain. In the first reading, we hear the story of Adam and how he got a companion, Eve. The reading ends with these words. The man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife, and the two become one flesh. Now, one flesh over here does not mean the couple are joined together through flesh or some sexual union, but it goes more than that. It is a union of mind, heart, and soul. It is this union that makes them one creation in the eyes of God. And in the gospel, we see Jesus raising the bar for marriage. The Pharisees wanted to ask about a divorce, and Jesus in turn teaches them about what marriage is. Marriage, according to Jesus, is a serious vocation. Not everybody has a call to marriage. He reiterates the same teaching of the Old Testament, but gives it a new meaning. He emphasizes that the union of man and a woman in marriage is ordained and sanctified by God, and no human should even try to break it. What it also means is that the couple on their part should put in all their effort to make sure that their marriage works. As married couple, two individuals becomes one new creation in the eyes of God. Once you are married, you have a new role, a new commitment, and a commitment always requires sacrifices. In other words, you have to say yes to the vocation of marriage. And just like marriage, parenthood is also a vocation. It is a vocation because this also involves commitment and sacrifices. When a couple becomes parent, they have to let go of their old way of life and embrace a new one for the sake of their child. Returning back to the story of John and Sarah, they never expected to be parents so soon, and yet life had another way. They had to accept gradually their role of parent. They had to understand that parenthood requires sacrifices. However, when they made the decision to embrace their parenthood, which initially they were reluctant to, it's only then they realized the richness of marriage, the richness of parenthood. And the Sarah, John, and Jean in the end became a new creation. Dear sisters and brothers, let me conclude with this. Any marriage or relationship requires effort from both the parties, the husband and the wife. If wife gives in 50% of the effort, the husband too have to put in 50% of the effort to make it a whole. However, at times, the wife is unable to put in the 50% and ends up putting 40%. During this time, it is the role of the husband to put in the remaining 60% of the effort to make it a whole. Or it can also happen that the husband, because of some work or some health issues, is able to put in just 30% of the effort in marriage. It's over here that the wife had to step in and put in the remaining 70% of the effort. Marriage and parenthood is a gift from God, and it can be enjoyed together. So what God has joined together, let no man separate it.